So Tape ID, outside human rights, press conference at the UN, climate talk. Could you introduce yourself?
My name is Chief Bill Erasmus. I'm from Northern Canada. We are the Dene Nation, and we have a huge landmass there. We took Canada to court on the issue in the early 1970s, and it was established in Canadian law that we have ownership to 360,000 square miles of land. And the reason we went to court is because our original treaties are with Great Britain, not with Canada. Canada had no authority to enter into a treaty with us. So it's an international instrument, and we believe there was no difference between us and the nation states. We have the same authority that they do. Canadian law says we're clearly one of the sovereigns in the country, so we ought to be at the table talking about these rights.
So traditional peoples, in that sense, since they belong to that landmass, should have an opportunity to voice their views in negotiations like this. Yeah,
absolutely. And we're hearing that Australia or Norway is leading and taking the wording out. We're quite concerned. We are also members of the Arctic Council, which are the 8 circumpolar countries. We're permanent participants in that forum, and so we work with the circumpolar countries, and so we'll want to talk to them and find out exactly what the wording is like. The issue is that we're.
Could you send me your email?
Okay. The issue is we're clumped together with civil society, which is not a bad thing, but we ought to be at the table. But
you have an individual voice that should be there.
We have an individual voice. We're the only ones that are not at the table being able to represent ourselves. Canada cannot represent us. The U.S. can. We have treaties with the U.S., the J Treaty, for example. We have treaties with the French. We have treaties with the Dutch, with the Spanish, meaning that no one else has the right to speak for us. And the whole issue of whether they're human rights or not really isn't really an issue in our minds. And I suppose some of the countries that don't want to include it are because they don't have to have human rights as states in order to move forward.
They've already assumed rights, which we take for granted.
Yeah, well, I don't know what they're thinking, but they don't have to support human rights because they're already recognized in the organization of the UN, which says they have authority to make decisions. And by suggesting that these are human rights, then they have to deal with us in a different way, including their general population.
Yeah.
So President Obama, for example, cannot just do things on his own. He actually has to listen to the people if he regards these rights as human rights. And so he might be advised that this is not the best thing to do, but we say that because this issue is so crucial, as the union leader said, there's going to be no jobs if there's no planet.
Yeah.
So
it's a good, clear statement, isn't it? There's no jobs on a dead planet. Yeah. Which brings you round really to the issue of the common good.
Yeah, and you know what? The Prime Minister, the President, if he's afraid of calling this a treaty, because it has to go to elsewhere, like Congress or whatever, he can use his discretionary power for the greater good of mankind, which is beyond the U.S. borders, and say, if this is a treaty, for all intents and purposes, I still have discretionary authority as the Prime Minister, as the President, and I can make a decision to support human rights, and I can make a decision to support indigenous peoples' clear involvement, and have this in what we would call the Paris Treaty of 2015. So we have to be creative, we have to be in this together, and I'm using my hockey jersey because my luggage hasn't come in. And someone said, you know what, we're on thin ice. As hockey players, as people up north, we're on thin ice. So if we don't work together, there might not be any ice left altogether.
Sounds to me like we need some more common sense for the common good.
Yeah.
And to look at actually bringing all the contributions together that could make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, our people say in the beginning of time, we were all the same. We had all the same laws, we had all the same rights. In the eyes of God, we're all the same. And it's man that messes it up. So it's man that's created the climate change, and it's us that have to do something about it.
Well, that's one of the upsides, is if you accept that we created the mess, then collectively we can also tidy it up.
Exactly.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.